Getting started with GMaps Mobile is a breeze. Once you've registered, you can then log in so that you can start to create your own GMaps Mobile views. When we log in, GMaps Mobile will connect to the GMaps Mobile cloud and then present me with a list of all of the mobile views that are available to me. By default, GMaps Mobile will include the test drive views so that you can reverse engineer or even delete them. To use your own data from a Google Doc, the first thing you'll have to do is create a new repository. You can see that I have a couple repositories available to me. I'm going to create a brand new Google Docs repository by clicking the Create button in the upper right corner, selecting Google Docs. I can name the Google Docs, so I'll call this Ryan Google Doc Library. I can decide if I want to share this library with other users in my organization. This will allow me to use my Google Docs repository as a data source and deliver views throughout my organization. Sharing this with other users in your company, however, will not allow them to browse or create brand new content from your repository. When I click on Grant Google Access, it's going to warn me that we're going to redirect to a Google page. It will open up the browser, open up Google. If you weren't logged in, it would prompt you to log in to your Google account. And then we're going to authorize access for GMaps Mobile to be able to communicate to your Google Docs. Once we've successfully granted access, we can now navigate back to our home screen, open up GMaps Mobile again, and we can select Finalize this repository. What this will do is create your repository so that you can then reuse it when you create your layers. The next thing that we want to do is create our first layer from a Google Doc. Now, layers are building blocks that you can reuse when you're building different views and deploying them to your users. So the layers is where we define our data source and properties for that layer. I'm going to press Create in the upper right corner, which will expose to me all of the different data sources and properties. I'm going to select Google Docs, where I can now select my Google repository, and GMaps Mobile will load all of the available spreadsheets from my Google Docs repository that we can now use to build a view. I'm going to select my healthcare doc, and I can even preview the data by selecting Preview Data right below. So I can make sure that this is the actual data that I want to view and visualize inside of GMaps Mobile. Now, while we're taking a look at the data, it's very important to note that to create a GMaps Mobile layer, that you'll need to organize your data in a specific format where the columns of data need to be in a specific order. That's very well documented on our Learning Center, where we provide example Excel files and documented guidance on how to configure your data. The format's relatively simple and probably very close to how you would want to organize your information for viewing a map. We have our address data, in this case latitude and longitudes, which also could be an address. You have next the label, the description of that item. Then we have a couple of categories. So this categorizes each hospital. So we have a type, and then we have an identification if there is an emergency room with yes or no. And then we have the values that we want to display for both color-coded alerts and in our chart views. And so you want one column that contains actual values and another column that may or may not contain targets. Once again, this is covered very well in our Learning Center. So once you have your data configured, we can now enter some layer properties. I can enter a layer name, which would be called hospitals. We can also enter a layer description that will help identify exactly what these hospitals mean. And in this case, we'll leave it blank. And then I can decide what this layer is. Are they points or are they shapes? For this layer, each hospital is going to be a point of interest or a pin on the map. And so what we can do is decide what type of pin we want to display. I'm just going to leave the default for now, which is a standard icon, but we could just as easily use any one of these locations. I could also use a custom URL or a custom icon if I wanted to, but as I mentioned, we'll use just a standard one for now. We can change the color of our icon to whatever we want if we're not using alerts. In this case, we are going to use alerts. I want to dynamically color the icons based on the actual falling in or out of tolerance to the target. And then I can also dynamically size icons based on the values. Finally, I can decide if I want to share this layer with other users in my company. This one's very important because if this is not shared, then no one else will be able to access this layer. If we set this as no, we don't want to share, this layer will be available only to myself to use, view, and analyze. When I click Save, this layer is now going to be available to me. The last step in creating my view is to select Views, press Create. Now we can go down and choose the layer that I want, in this case my hospitals. Press Next, name the view, and that's it. Now when we save this view will be available to me. I can press on hospitals, and GMaps Mobile will launch the map and load the data right out of my Google Docs so that I can analyze it. And here we have all of our San Francisco hospitals. I can select them, navigate around, view the different measures. I can filter things based on their alert levels, select multiple locations, visualize them, and really narrow down and focus my energies on the information that is most important to me so that I can then drive action.